Hello, students! Today, we are going to learn about a very interesting topic in biology, how some of the simplest living organisms reproduce. We will be looking at asexual reproduction, and we'll start with a method called fission. So, before we begin, let's think about a question. What could be the most simple way to create new life? Imagine an organism. What is the easiest way it can make a new one? Let's explore this together. This brings us to our first main topic, one parent, many offspring. We're going to understand what asexual reproduction is. So, what exactly is asexual reproduction? Well, it is a mode of reproduction where a new generation, a new organism, is created from just a single individual. And very importantly, this happens without the involvement of gametes, which are the special reproductive cells. Now let's compare this with sexual reproduction, which you might be more familiar with. In asexual reproduction, as we just said, only one parent is involved. But in sexual reproduction, we need two parents. Asexual reproduction is a much faster process, while sexual reproduction is slower. A very important difference is that in asexual reproduction, the offspring are very similar to the parent, almost identical. But in sexual reproduction, there is much more variation. This is a key point to remember. Okay, so we know asexual reproduction involves one parent. But how does it actually happen in single-celled organisms? This brings us to our next section, reproduction by cell division, which will be an introduction to fission. It's quite simple when you think about it. For unicellular organisms, meaning organisms made of just one cell, the process of cell division itself is what leads to new individuals. When the single cell divides, it is not just growing, it is creating a whole new organism. This process is called fission. Now let's look at the first type of fission. This is called binary fission, splitting in two. The name itself gives us a big hint. The word bi means two. So in binary fission, one parent cell splits to form two new cells. This process happens in two main steps. First, step one is karyokinesis. This is when the nucleus of the cell, you can think of it as the cell's control center, divides into two. After the nucleus has divided, step two happens. This is called cytokinesis. Here, the cytoplasm, which is the rest of the cell material, divides. The result is two new, smaller cells, which we call daughter cells. Let's look at a very common example, the amoeba. As you can see in the diagram, and as you probably know, amoeba does not have a regular shape. Because of this, the division can happen in any plane or any direction. First, the nucleus divides, and then the cytoplasm divides, and it results in two new amoeba cells. Now let's look at a different example. This is Leishmania. Unlike amoeba, Leishmania has a more definite structure. You can see it has a whip-like structure at one end. Because of this specific body organization, the division has to happen in a definite orientation, a particular direction, to ensure that both new cells are formed correctly. So we have seen how one cell can become two. But what if an organism needs to create many offspring all at once? Well, for that, there is another method. Let's look at multiple fission, which is often called the parasite's trick. So what is multiple fission? Again, the name helps us. Multiple means many. So this is a mode of asexual reproduction where a single parent cell divides to form many daughter cells simultaneously, all at the same time. A very important example of this is Plasmodium. This is the parasite that causes malaria. What happens is that the organism forms a protective wall around itself called a cyst. Inside this cyst, the nucleus divides repeatedly to form many smaller nuclei. And then when conditions are favorable, the cyst breaks and all these many daughter cells are released at once. You can imagine why this is a very useful strategy for a parasite living inside a host. All right, so we have discussed the two main types of fission. Let's do a quick recap to make sure we understand the differences very clearly. So let's compare them. First, the number of daughter cells. In binary fission, there are two. In multiple fission, there are many. What about the plane of division? In binary fission, it can be definite, like in Leishmania, or indefinite, like in amoeba. But in multiple fission, it is indefinite. And finally, the examples to remember. For binary fission, we have amoeba and Leishmania. For multiple fission, the key example is Plasmodium. Now, I want to talk about something that often confuses students. Is fission the same thing as mitosis? Let's clear this up. They are not the same. You see, fission is a mode of asexual reproduction. It happens in unicellular organisms, and the entire parent organism divides to form new individuals. Mitosis, on the other hand, is a type of cell division that happens in multicellular organisms like us. We use mitosis for growth, for repair of tissues, and for replacing old cells. When we have a cut, mitosis helps to heal it. Mitosis is not a mode of reproduction for the whole organism, in our case. So let's just review the key takeaways from today's class. The main thing to remember is that in fission, one parent can lead to two offspring, that is binary fission, or it can lead to many offspring, which is multiple fission. And to finish, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Why is this simple act of cell division enough for reproduction in unicellular organisms? But for complex organisms like us, it is only for growth and repair. What is it about our complexity that requires a different method of reproduction? Think about that. Thank you.